All right, it was a moment the driverless car industry had been anticipating. Governor Newsom's last chance to veto or pass bills brought to his desk. In front of him, 3 bills involving self-driving cars and trucks. That includes everything from how often driverless cars should have to report crashes to whether the technology should be allowed in big rigs traveling alongside you on the highway. And now we are continuing our series, No One at the Wheel. And the guy taking us all along for that ride is our own senior investigative reporter, Bigad Shaban, who has been covering this beat for us for quite some time now. All right, Bigad, I guess let's go ahead and start by talking about what the governor actually approved.
Yeah, so this all has to do with law enforcement's ability to issue citations to driverless cars that actually break traffic rules. And there actually is a connection to our own reporting. It was about a year ago that we first told people about a loophole that essentially said driverless cars were pretty much immune from getting traffic tickets because of how California wrote its laws. It says drivers shall get the citation.
But if there's no driver.
But if there's no driver, there's no ticket. And that's what we found out. That's how law enforcement has been interpreting it. So as a result of our reporting, lawmakers took action. There's now this bill. Truth be told, though, Audrey, it has been watered down a little bit. The aim was to actually give driverless car companies citations, just like other states have taken action to do that. But now, instead, law enforcement are going to be able to issue these new kinds of citations specifically for driverless cars. They're called notices of non-compliance. So what kind of penalty comes with it? There's actually still a huge question mark attached to it. The DMV now has 2 years to hammer this all out. So for now, it's still really unclear what kind of penalties, if any, they may face once they break traffic.
Okay, still unclear, but I guess it's a step forward.
Certainly, opponents would argue that. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some of the bills that the governor did veto. One of them has to do with driverless trucks.
Yeah, this was one that we actually anticipated. We told viewers about just a couple of weeks ago. It's a piece of legislation that essentially would have banned this technology from being used in driverless trucks, since it would have required a human to ride along. The governor vetoed it, saying that the DMV has actually recently released its own safety measures and protocols to move the technology forward. He said he doesn't want to get in the way of that, and so he vetoed it.
Okay. He vetoed another thing about crashes.
Yeah, so this other legislation that the governor also vetoed would have required an expansion of reporting requirements when it comes to collisions. Interestingly, right now, car companies, driverless car companies, only have to report crashes that involve their vehicles that are in a testing phase. Ironically, cars that are being used for commercial purposes, like giving you a ride to a restaurant later today, if there was an accident in that case, they wouldn't have to report it to the state. So the governor, though, decided to veto it, saying that, again, the DMV is taking steps to actually already increase reporting requirements. And it's also important to note that car companies are already required to report all crashes to the federal government.
Got it. Before I let you go, can you just remind us once again just the status of driverless cars here in California right now?
I mean, certainly Google's sister company, Waymo, is the big show in town. They're offering paid rides to passengers in San Francisco, Los Angeles. Their main competitor is General Motors Cruise, but they've actually been off the road, Audrey, since last October when one of their driverless vehicles inadvertently dragged a woman some 20 feet after she was trapped underneath the vehicle. They are just now beginning to come back in a very small scale way with some testing in Mountain View and Sunnyvale. And actually, they're really on the receiving end of several government investigations. Interestingly, just today, the federal government from Newsom announced that it has closed its investigation, fining Cruise $1.5 million and ordering the company to essentially continue to provide proof to the federal government that they're improving the way they report crashes and what happens as a result.
All right. Well, really appreciate all that information, just the updated information when it comes to our driverless cars here in California. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Audrey.